Hey everybody, it's Patriot Nurse here again, and I got such a good response from my medical kits part 1 and 2 that I decided to throw in a bonus section for y'all. So this is kind of more advanced sort of stuff, I guess you would say, but all of it is attainable through online sources. Where I got this was Shop MedVet International, so you can go to shopmedvet.com. But this selection of things is more type of, I guess you would call it, advanced wound dressing sort of stuff. So I'll begin up here and I'll kind of just give you a blow-by-blow type of thing. Here we go. And right here we have the elastic gauze bandages, and they're 6 inches by 4 yards or so, and they're really absorbable, so you can use them to wrap. Typically what I used these for was wrapping total knees, like total knee replacements, because especially within the first few days you're having a ton of drainage. So they're quite absorbent, but they also keep compression on the wound and they hold the other bandage dressings intact together. Here we have, these are so important. They're non-adherent sterile pads. They also go by the name Telfa pads, but these are generic. This was the best deal that I've ever seen. For this, how many are in here? Yeah, there's 100 of them for like $8, I think, and if you compare that to CVS, you'd be spending easily $20, $30 on this type of stuff. So just throwing that out there. And then here we have gauze 4x4s. These are sterile, okay? Now, the primary difference here between the usage of sterile and non-sterile type of stuff is sterile you're going to use for that immediate contact on top of a wound or immediately post-surgery, that type of stuff. You use non-sterile types of dressings later in the healing process when there's perhaps a scab or an underlying scab and it's just a very, very surface area that's open. So you can find that type of information online, but that's just a very, very brief summary. I'm not responsible for anything. I have to say this in all our videos, and it's so stupid because we can never seem to get any kind of tort reform or medical liability reform through Congress, and until that changes, I'll continue to say this for each one. Here we have the gauze bandage rolls. This is Curlex, and this is kind of like the generic. I love Curlex. Curlex. Oh, how I love thee. It's fantastic. It's really fluffy, like as far as a gauze, well, you can't really see it, but it's really fluffy and it's really absorbent, and it's fantastic for holding these types of bandages onto a wound. So, and the generics here. This was a fantastic deal, by the way. Let's backtrack here to these gauze bandages. It was a great deal. They were on shopmedvet.com. There were 48 of these for $14, and I cannot improve upon that. I've not found a better deal. This right here is a colossal roll of mole foam, and I think it was like $8 maybe. But if you're familiar with how much mole foam costs in the packages at like drugstores or Walmart or whatever, you know how good a deal that is, because it was, I think it's like 100 yards. It's quite a bit. And down here we have, these are lap sponges. Lap sponges, okay? These are sterile, and you would use these in, for instance, if you were doing some kind of abdominal surgery or whatever, just to absorb fluid until you can get them clamped down. But, and then here we have cohesive tape. This stuff is so good. It's the Oasis cohesive bandage, and it works kind of like an ace wrap here, except it's disposable, and I think it stays on better because you don't have to secure it with these little things. There are ace wraps that are made nowadays with Velcro, but this stuff is just fantastic, and I've not found anything that works as good as this. And down here we have steri strips, because there are some cases where you do have like a cut or a superficial type of cut, but it's deep, but it's not quite deep enough for stitches. So steri strips, I would stock up on them. In fact, you can get them here. So yeah, good stuff to stock up on. And then here we've got some sutures and some, these are Kelly forceps, and I think they're Kelly forceps. Let me make sure. Yeah, they're Kelly forceps. But yeah, you use those. They're like a needle holder. You can use those to do superficial sutures and such. We got the povidone iodine swabs. I like those better than just the bottle, because once you open that bottle of iodine, it's not sterile anymore. I like the swabs because it's individually measured, and you can keep them sterile. You can keep just as much as you need sterile, and you don't have to waste tons and tons of iodine, because iodine's expensive, folks, if you've ever tried to buy it at Walmart or wherever. And we got some masks here. These, you can use them for if you're doing some type of minor surgery or whatever. And these are important. These are surgical gloves. And the key thing about surgical gloves here is this little word right there. Sterile. Sterile gloves. These are distinct from the gloves that you would buy in a box in like quantities of 100 or so. Those we call clean gloves. They're not dirty, they're clean. But sterile gloves have been autoclaved. They are germ-free, completely germ-free. And if you're going to be doing invasive things like surgeries or whatever, minor repair, whatever you want to call it, you want to use sterile gloves. You also want to use sterile gloves. You don't. These are more expensive. These are surgical gloves. Surgical. Let me backtrack. Sterile surgical gloves. Now you can get regular sterile gloves that are not surgical, and I would use just the regular sterile gloves for things like wound care on burns, etc. But that's just something to throw out there. And then back up here, we've got 4x4s. Whenever you hear me talk about 4x4s, it's not lumber, folks. It's gauze. And these are non-sterile. Uh-oh. There we go. Non-sterile. Non-steriles, like we said, you're not going to use them for direct first contact for post-operative wound care or whatever. You're going to use sterile stuff, especially for burns or just general type of stuff. But these are good for using as like to wipe with alcohol, using them to disinfect topical types of scrapes, etc., to hold alcohol or Bactine or whatever type of disinfecting agent you want. And these are 2x2s. So good things to have. You can also use these as padding for, like for instance, if you had like a pretty good cut and you used a non-adherent pad, a sterile non-adherent pad to cover the wound, you could use non-sterile gauze to put over that sterile non-adherent pad to pad the wound. And then you could wrap it with some Kerlex or some gauze, whatever. And then we've got just your regular ACE wraps. And then a dental probe. I would also go ahead and acquire you some good medical surgical instruments online. I'm honestly not as familiar with those as I need to be. I know what I need, but beyond the immediate types of wound closures, etc., I don't really know much more than that, and I need to do some more research. But there are people who do that much better than I do. There's a ER doctor, I forget his name, but I think he was in the Navy or whatever, but he has a really good YouTube channel, and I would recommend that for you guys. So that's what I got for right now, and hopefully I can get some more stuff together for you guys. But this is Patriot Nurse signing off, and I'll see you in a few. Bye.